All right, 6 o'clock. If Eric mutes his computer, we will call the meeting to order and with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you and welcome to the Monday, February 3rd, Credit River City Council meeting. We will begin with approving or amending the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda tonight? I do have a couple. Number one, I'd like to strike 7.6 from the agenda as there's some new information. We're not ready for that, to discuss that one yet. I'd also like to add 7.9, Planning Commission appointment process. Since the application deadline was closed the other day. Any other changes?
Which one's you straight?
7.6. Okay.
Greg Shane in here.
Well, he's got the one after that. He's got 7.7. So,
Okay.
so with that, I will take a motion to approve the agenda with the two changes.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Leroy.
Second.
Thank you, Abe. Motion by Schomer, second by Zonto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next up, Deputy Strack. Good evening. And Jeff, if you don't mind turning the microphone on, please, and thank you.
Are you back with us?
Hey, back.
Really?
You lucky
Oh,
dog.
no, we're not working, huh? Hey, give him this.
Throw it against the wall.
You were
No,
supposed,
then I'd have to pay for it.
Jeff, you were supposed to change the batteries before you started.
I'll just set the alarm off again in here if I did that. Forgot how to do that. Good evening. There is 3.5 pages of calls for January. On the end of the report, there is contracted deputy versus non-contracted deputy calls. The contracted deputies, the two of us are handling 64% of the calls as of right now.
Good.
This does not include any proactive traffic. So you're not going to see, if there's 103 calls, you're going to see traffic complaints, but not, you know, when I run 25 traffic stops a shift, that's not gonna be on here.
Mhm.
Actually, I don't do that, but, so overall, I think, I mean, we're pretty close to almost, I mean, you'll never get 100% just because we don't have the night coverage. But I think the 64% over the contract is, we're doing pretty well. Most of them are coming in on telephone calls versus the 911 calls, which is like a non-emergency phone call. 55% of those 911 calls are 34%. And then 10% alarm is the alarm company calling in. So, overall, is there anything that stood out to you guys? There was, Chris, there was a stolen vehicle.
There was, that's what I thought, last
yep.
week.
Yep.
Okay.
Vehicle was returned though. So it was a auto body shop stuff was
Yeah.
returned. The dealer plates were not returned off of that. We kind of know who it is.
Oh,
So, or I believe that there's some follow-up stuff going on in that, but,
sure.
So they just borrowed it?
one guy borrowed it that wasn't supposed to borrow it. But I think when they called him, he decided he was gonna return it and some body work was done on it, so.
Okay.
But, the other thing I think that stands out in the report is the days of calls. Obviously, out of those 103 calls, the busiest day was actually Monday for 22 calls. I think a lot of that is that stuff from Saturday to Sunday night might wait till Monday morning.
Okay.
And then we get the calls of that, but, the second one was Thursday with 18 and then Saturday was 16 calls. So,
Okay.
any questions?
Council, any questions for Deputy Strack?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I know being back here, this is a lot more than 3 years ago. I think 3
Yeah.
years ago, we only had 1 or 2 pages. Now we got 3.5. So, which is good. I mean, having 2 deputies, it's good to get the calls. So,
Yeah. So, Jeff, when you say phone call, now that's a non-emergency call into dispatch,
Mhm.
right? So
Yep.
the 445 number?
Yep.
Okay.
yep, the way they code it. So,
Yep.
the way we code it on here is if it's an actual 911 phone call, So like if you call 911, our dispatch will ask, is this emergency or non-emergency? Can you hold
Yeah.
it? If it's a non-emergency, they'll label it as like a telephone call.
Okay,
If it's an emergency one, it goes to the 911. So like your medicals, your illnesses,
Mhm.
any of that, your accidents are all 911s. Your alarm calls are coming in through an alarm company, so they'll label that as an alarm. Everything else, your road hazards, outside fires, animal neglects, like those are going to be a
Yeah.
report call. So it's
Okay.
going to be a telephone call.
sure.
So
Would that be why then, do those, like if it's Saturday, or Sunday, would you still get dispatched on a Saturday, or Sunday if you had nothing going on?
yep,
then?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if that's why they piled up till Monday then.
I think people are hesitant to call on the weekends just because it's easier.
Mhm.
A lot of people really think like business hours, Monday through Friday, will call and make the fraud reports,
Sure,
or stuff's happening on Saturday, Sunday nights. They don't realize till they go out Monday to get their car and stuff's missing.
yeah,
So
Okay.
some of that's the case. I can't give you specifics of why Monday is that way, but I'm guessing just in the 16 years of doing this, it's always been Monday, Tuesdays are busy report call days.
sure,
Just because I think people are like, I'll throw it off until Monday when I go to work and I'll call. So,
okay,
other than that, I mean, there's stuff that stands out in here that, I mean, obviously there's redacted stuff that we can't talk about, but we're starting to get, I can't say like higher level calls, but we're starting to get more and more just in the years I've been over here. I mean, this will be the third year, not consistent, but the third years I've been here. And we're starting to see more of like city calls, like your Shakopee Park, like Savage calls.
Mhm.
But I think that's due to the fact that the city now realizes like we have an actual dedicated deputies. Let's call the police on it.
Mhm.
So, but overall, I mean, I think as long as we can keep me personally, as long as I can see that like that 64% is covered by our contract deputy, I think we're doing pretty well.
yeah,
So,
perfect.
any other questions?
I don't think so. Jeff, we really appreciate it, what
Yeah.
you and Amanda are doing out there, and just stay safe and
Sounds good.
appreciate you coming tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll move to consent agenda. Those items on the council agenda which are considered routine or non-controversial are included as part of the consent agenda. Unless a council member specifically requests that an item on the consent agenda be removed and considered separately, items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion, a second, and a vote. Any item removed from consent agenda shall be placed at the end of general business. Tonight, on consent agenda, we've got two items. 3.1, approve the minutes of the January 21st, 2025 city council meeting. And 3.2, approve the claims and transfer requests as presented. Is there anything that anybody'd like to remove from consent agenda tonight? Otherwise, I'll take a motion to approve. Thank you, Jay.
Second.
Thank you, Bill. I've got a motion by Soderbach, second by Markert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Open forum. The public forum is intended to afford the public an opportunity to address concerns to the council. The public forum will be no longer than 30 minutes in length, and each presenter will have no more than 5 minutes to speak. Topics of discussion are restricted to local governmental topics rather than private or political agendas. The council may discuss but will not take formal actions on public forum presentations. I've got one person signed up for public forum, Mr. Conroy.
Hey guys, anything else? Question about Casey Addition, Johanna Drive and Casey Parkway are getting paved. Are they working on the plans for that this year? To resurface or tear that apart and repave it?
I don't think we have that in our capital plan at this time.
We were talking about doing the rest of, those streets this year,
A patch, like a overlay like we did,
Yeah.
a maintenance deal like we did, yeah.
aren't we, Shane?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, council members, I believe that's the intention. And there is a difference. I mean, we have different types of improvements in our program. A capital improvement or an overlay is one that you might see where, we're doing 1.5 inch constructive thickness. We're going back and tying in the driveways, shouldering. And it's kind of a more extensive project, and that is a project that we generally assess 50% of the cost for. And what we had discussed for The Casey edition is, we have a patching budget. And that we try to do as much of that as we can, or as much of the Casey edition with our patching budget this year. I don't know that we're gonna be able to do the entire rest of the neighborhood, probably not. But the plan is if we don't have any other real bad blowouts that need funding, the intent would be to prepare a quote and provide the council for a review, so.
But the issue is they've shut off all those exits when they put 27 in, forced all that traffic onto Casey and John Deere. And with the gas line they added or whatever, it's delaminating and coming apart. Is that part of the plan this year, I guess is what the question was.
Tim, I think we're gonna have to review it in the spring when we, are looking at what we're gonna do for our patching and make decisions then on what, how we move forward.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
It is on the list, though, Tim. So,
Anybody else? Anybody else for open forum tonight? Seeing none, we'll close open forum. I move down to general business. General business 7.1. Consider resolution 2025-08, approving a minor subdivision at 21480 Texas Avenue. And our planner is out, so I think, Peter, I think you're gonna take this one.
Mr. Mayor and Council, we have two planning items on your agenda, and I'm gonna do some pinch hitting for Claire while she's dealing with a family emergency right now. Both of them should be relatively straightforward. So first, resolution 2025-08 is dealing with a minor subdivision at 21480 Texas Avenue. This is a parcel of land with a single home on it being subdivided into one 3.46 acre lot with a house, and then a 44, almost 45 acre outlot that will be targeted for future development as what's being represented to us tonight. The only thing in front of council tonight is a minor subdivision. We are not looking at any development plans, any development concepts tonight. In terms of a minor subdivision, this is very straightforward. It meets all of our tests. The only question that has arisen during the process is we received a letter from the county on Friday about access to County Road 27. The county is saying when the outlot is developed, the driveway on the home is going to have to be relocated from the county road to the new future street in the outlot in that development. That matters for our subdivision analysis because for a minor subdivision to be approved, both lots have to have access. And so we have updated the resolution, and Eric passed it out this evening to address the county's comments. The county had some other comments, I think most of which related to the concept for future development, which is not in front of you tonight. But the additional condition we've added to comply with the county access requirements to make our subdivision work says that when development that includes a future local street occurs on Outlot A, the CH-27 driveway access for the existing home shall be removed and relocated to the future local street unless the county agrees to waive or modify this requirement. And that way, if the developer is able to get the county to change its mind about what it's going to require, they don't need to come back to us. They can just all do it. And so other than that, this is really straightforward, I think. And Shane is here, of course, if there are any engineering questions, but staff's recommendation would be that the council approve resolution 2025-08 in the form that was passed out to you before the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. Leroy.
I have a question on that, dividing that parcel back 10, 15 years ago, when that was going to become an intersection, when the property to the east was going to develop, Scott County staked out turn lanes. And the turn lanes were in this other property. So are we going to have to go back and fight with this property owner for these turn lanes? And also with the future development of that property. The stakes are right through the front yard of that home,
The one to the north?
the one to the south.
Well, that would be the southbound side of the road though, right?
Yeah,
Shane?
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, Counselor Schomer, so I think both of those questions are related to the development that hasn't been applied for yet. We, one thing on the east side, that property was platted, when, so there was a road easement that was acquired through that property. Then at a later date, it was platted for estate purposes. And at that time, additional right of way was obtained on the east side of the road. So now, if further subdivision of this parcel is put forward, one of the requirements would be that 75 feet from center line on the west side is also dedicated. So there'll be 150 feet of right of way total, which is more than adequate to construct any turn lane improvements. But as far as if they make that connection, what turn lane improvements will be required just for one side, those questions haven't been answered yet because we haven't even received the application yet.
Right.
So
That's more related to if the larger parcel here ends up becoming developed or a preliminary
Right.
plat application would come in. We don't have an application today.
we don't have it today, but we would not be surprised if it came in, a month or two from now. So
Yep.
If that were to come in, Shane, could that be used as a reason not to put the street to the west end? Because that lot split off and that it won't fit in there anymore, or turn lanes?
I don't think that could be used as a reason. I mean, if
Okay.
somebody proposes a development, it has to be consistent with all of our comprehensive plans. And with all of our, the county's requirements for access. So, yeah, so what you're saying, Leroy, I think is maybe, so if the road, if this property did develop, the road would likely align with this unbuilt portion.
That's the top of the hill.
Right, and so there might not be easement on this property. Well, that
No.
may be,
It's the one that he wants to split off.
Was that for a turn lane or was it for a bypass lane?
That was.
Because a bypass lane, I
That
can
was
see
for-
going south.
Future, whoa, that.
Yeah, because I suppose at the time, if they're only developed to the east,
Yeah.
they would be considered a bypass lane there. But if it develops to the west, that would be a turn lane.
Which would require a different amount of easement to the south, I imagine.
Okay. Gonna come back and bite us, but whatever.
Well, that is the struggle with having something come through, not as a complete preliminary plat, where you try to piece it together one by one, is that it's gonna ultimately could cause some struggle if the future doesn't fit whatever the development looks like.
Well, because the way they're splitting that lot off with that pie shape going along the road, it's gonna.
Is that gonna change the acreage of it? We wind up having to get it. And get it below them.
No, that one I think would still be fine. Any other questions, comments, council?
One question, Mr. Mayor, the change in the resolution, is the applicant aware of that, and are they in agreement with this? So, specifically, removing the existing entry from Texas from 27, when they actually do a development on Outlot 8.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Zanto, this is secondhand, but my understanding is the applicant has been made aware of that condition. They do not like that condition. And that's one of the reasons why we added to what the county said, that unless they can get the county to waive or modify that condition. So they're free to continue to work with the county about their road access. But legally it would not comply with our code to pass this without the county's condition. And so I think the two options in front of the council tonight are pass it as revised, or we do have time to continue this to a later meeting. I don't know if it was you, Eric, or somebody else who spoke with them. I don't believe we have a request from them to continue this tonight.
Mayor and Council, I don't think that question was explicitly asked to continue. But to the email I received from the applicant, to your point, they were not in favor of the requirement to move the driveway. So what we intended to do in the revised resolution is give the city the most flexibility. If the county has these requirements of the applicant, that's fine. That they are not ultimately going to be the city's burden to enforce. We're simply saying, if the county's agreeing to waive the requirement, the city has no objection under number one. If the county is not going to waive that requirement, well, then it's going to stand. The rest of it and the other requirements of the letter, in dated the 31st, is addressed in point number 2. That as conditions of approval, it remains a responsibility of the applicant to work those things out with the county at its sole expense. So we tried to give the city the most flexibility and keep the burden on those two parties to sort out those issues.
If I could clarify, it might have dropped a knot in there. Under the second paragraph, it's not a condition of approval of this minor subdivision that they work out their deals with the county about however they're going to develop. That's not the issue. The issue is it's not our road. And we can't approve a minor subdivision that landlocks a parcel. And so we have to have this condition if you want to have the subdivision, unless and until you get the county to change its mind.
So this allows the subdivision to happen yet tonight. And further discussions between the property owner and the county can continue on whether or not the driveway is actually going to be required to be removed from 27. Okay. Any other questions, council?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, do we then need to have some sort of an asterisk in this thing that also addresses whether or not there's the ability to put in a turn lane or bypass, or we're all good?
Minus a development application, we don't have any other factors that we're considering tonight. We're considering
Does that affect any of the other properties besides that?
Jane, any thoughts? Does it change any other? No?
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think that the council should review this subdivision application, kind of ignoring that you've seen a concept plan. It's possible that what happens next is someone decides to make a large acre estate with a single family mansion on the thing. And the county's view about access to the road is completely different. We shouldn't be asking the council to answer questions that haven't been presented yet. We don't know what is going to happen next.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the piece you gotta separate is that we don't have an application for development.
Then I have no objection.
One more quick question.
Yeah.
So there's a property to the north that's in that,
Little.
yeah,
That one.
Mhm.
I assume, just want to make sure that that's a correct assumption, that they're not impacted by this. Now that we got a subdivision coming on the west and the south of them, the county does not have the ability to force them to take off their driveway now that there's a subdivision below and to the west of them. Is that a true statement?
Assuming that's a different ownership, I would say that's a true statement. Real down and dirty. The parcel right now, single tax parcel, because it abuts the road, the county has an obligation, a legal obligation to give them one access. While they're applying to duplicate the access in the parcel, now the county has a stake in the outcome. That other parcel is completely unrelated to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. There are no more questions or comments. So if somebody's ready to make a motion.
One more, do we
Okay.
need to make that grammatical change that in the resolution was presented? That the one implemented?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Sauterbach, the grammatical change that I was discussing with Eric, that it's correctly stated in the resolution.
Okay.
Yes.
So we seek a motion to approve the resolution as presented tonight.
So I'll make that motion to approve the resolution 508. I'll make that motion, but. Further question?
I have one more
All right,
question.
let me take, I got a motion, I got a second, and I will take further discussion.
So one of the things that I think I have a big challenge with is now our packet has something different than this. So what are we doing with our packet now? So this resolution, as we approve it, will not match our packet. Is,
The online version.
Well, those, apologize, Mayor and Council, those things can happen from time to time. So long as the final record is accurate in terms of the final resolution book, the minutes, because then things change. The city places the documents up front table for public consumption, there's public viewing, and then we try to put stuff up on the screen, so you can only do so much, I suppose.
But is it, because I thought this about a year ago too, isn't it simple just to, in the meeting packet that was posted online, just change the link from the old resolution to the new resolution, so.
Oh, sure, we could do that. If it's.
And if we
it
add
stays
things-
in
yeah.
its. I mean, it's an agenda. The actions itself are in the final signed resolution. And that's, those. are the
That's
decisions,
true,
but
so
we can
this,
change
that's true on the
Yeah.
resolutions,
Yeah.
but what about the things that aren't a resolution?
I'll tell you what,
Okay.
let's deal with this one that we have a motion and a second for and.
sorry.
the-
Short answer,
No,
yeah, we can.
It,
I'll send
and it's
email.
fair, right? It's a fair comment, especially if there's a major change in something, right? I mean, something that's a resolution that we're dealing with tonight that's gonna be posted separately as a resolution when it's all executed. It isn't really that much of a concern because it is actually posted that way, but I don't disagree when there's a major change that we can republish and put the correct packet out. All right, so I've got a motion and a second, motion by Councilman Markert, second by Sauterbach to approve resolution 2025-08, approving a minor subdivision at 21480 Texas Avenue. All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. 7.2, consider a variance at 7998 Crestview, front yard variance resolution 2025-09.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is the property that you may recognize as having come before the council before the holidays for a variance for a setback for an accessory structure that would violate the setbacks without a variance. And the reason being, the whole backyard is encumbered by a drainage and utility easement, except for this sort of island of unencumbered land. And what wasn't caught the first time through was that because this is a corner lot, that setback variance was needed from two lines, not just one. One was presented then. It was approved subject to conditions. We reached out to the applicant. They supplied the application to take care of the other variance as well. It's went to the Planning Commission. No comments in the public hearing. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the variance. If you look at what we have on the screen here, page 26 of your packet, you can see the line to the sort of upper left of the building and to the upper right of the building are the two property lines we're concerned with. And the one from the back line has already been approved. The one from the line to the side there hasn't, but if you look at the way the building is oriented, the structure, if you could go up just a little bit, it's tucked away as far as possible from both lines. And so they've we were doing so well.
Right? Keeping you all away from PowerPoints, right?
Bottom line, is speaking for myself, not planning staff, this is sort of a cleanup thing tonight to deal with. The second variance, it's implicated by all the same things you were considering the first time around. And we're requesting the council to approve resolution 2025-09 to grant this variance as well, cleaned up this property stuff.
Perfect, thank you, Peter. Council questions?
What's the status of issue with the acreage and square feet?
I did have a conversation with their, I believe it's a paralegal they're working with, that they're pulling together their legal descriptions and hope to have an application in by April.
So is this contingent, is this tonight's contingent on them doing that?
You had already approved the prior variance with that being done.
With that contingent?
Condition.
Yeah, so that we don't need it in this one now. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, I take a motion when somebody's ready.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Leroy.
Second.
Thank you, Jane. Your motion is approved, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I've got a motion by Councilmember Schomer to approve resolution 2025-09, a front yard variance for 7998 Crestview. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. 7.3, consider temporary position for interim city administrator and related agreement. Attorney Michael, we're gonna give this to Eric, or are you guys gonna tag team this one?
How about you?
Sure.
Attorney's always better, right? So.
You should put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, you may recall at the conversation at your last meeting regarding the selection of a city administrator and how that's going to take a little bit longer. There was a request from Administrator Johnson to convert his position, still temporary, but from independent contractor to a temporary employee, with no changes of anything other than that, because of the potential improvements for him status-wise in terms of protection against lawsuits. I believe was how he explained his desire for that. And so in the packet, actually now you have another updated version in front of you, is a draft proposal letter from the city and from the mayor to Mr. Johnson, basically accomplishing that. The proposed action or the recommended action in the packet was to approve this subject to any modifications I might require just to keep it all legal. The one thing I want to call to your attention that I still need to look at is 1.4. Right now, as an independent contractor, Mr. Johnson has not negotiated for health insurance benefits. He gets that elsewhere. There's a question legally whether we're required to offer that to him because while temporary, it's full-time. And it's my understanding that we should be making this offer. I'm confirming that with one of my experts, my partners, who's an expert in this field, but I don't have that answer this afternoon. So what's in front of you now assumes we're required to offer that to him. And so the offer letter has that in it, if that's of any importance to the council. And Mr. Johnson can speak to him for himself about whether any of that is significant as far as he's concerned.
I have coverage from my spouse, so it's like many employees, or where do you pick? And this is a 60-day term, so I'm not about to change that from other coverage. But to the Peter's point, we're wearing a different hat. If you can take yourself out of it, try to look at it more objectively, it's probably the more appropriate terminology is what you should put in 1.4. Protects the city more than any.
Thank you, staff, council members, questions or thoughts?
Could you tell me the math on the 9290? So is that just on unemployment insurance that the
I've
employer
talked
has?
with the finance director and he could certainly elaborate if necessary.
Because we're trying to make this cost neutral to the city and to you.
Correct.
And your wages.
As long as we're close, I mean, I'm more than happy to make any changes to that figure to make it neutral to both parties. Fine.
Yeah, assuming there's no other benefits is just netting out FICA
FICA and Medicare?
and then you're 7.65%.
Okay, and what about unemployment insurance? Because he would be eligible for unemployment insurance, so we'd have federal, state. Workers' comp too? And I don't know if there's any cost at all, but
Our league premiums for workers' comp would stay this. I don't
Stays the
think-
same.
it stays the same.
If there's a percentage here that we need to tweak this, I'm fine with that to keep it simple. But I don't think it's gonna be
Okay.
Material,
Or so.
yeah.
Dollar per hour or something.
All right, as long as everyone's comfortable, I'm comfortable with the rate. The other question I had is that I went back and looked at our contract with you, Eric, and we only had 20 to 25 hours per week, so. In your original
Do
contract.
you really want, well,
No,
we-
I'm just curious, but it's full-time now.
well,
Or it's been full-time since you've been on board.
I would want to check those hours again, it's to verify that, but if. It's been 35 hours a week on
Okay.
average that I've been working for you.
Okay,
I thought it was 35 to 40 in the contract, to be honest.
Okay.
Might just be. Somebody.
I may have the old contract. No?
Okay. that
Well,
might
I
be-
don't know.
I could look.
Okay,
But it's been 35, you wouldn't be able to do it at 25 hours a week, to be fair, and, 40 is, I've never had a 40-hour week, I think I can really recall, so I just looked back at, the last 7 months, and it's averaged about 35.
okay.
So it would be exempt, it's not entitled to overtime, it's not entitled to other things, so we're just trying to find a place to keep it whole, keep everybody where they're at.
I did have one last question.
Yeah.
I forgot. Is this a hard stop for you on May
I wouldn't
21st?
say.
We had in your old contract through June.
I would say hard stop. I don't think I don't want to put anybody in that position ever. You know, I think
Okay.
I want to encourage you all to, you know, advance what you need to advance and move along. So if we have to revisit it, I'm open to doing that too. I would never say a hard stop.
Okay.
As I sit here today, I could get different marching orders, but I wouldn't think it's the case.
Is your spouse watching the
Right,
live
right,
stream?
it's-
You'll get a text pretty soon.
Right, my pocket's going lighting. But yeah, I think my goal is to encourage you to, you know, move on and having those dates be more fluid, I think might be helpful for everyone.
Okay. I'm comfortable.
You good? Okay. Okay.
Sure. Eric, are you comfortable with all of this?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm
Okay.
fine with it. It isn't so much about the dollars, rather it's just, the world can be litigious.
Mhm.
And
Does it properly protect you?
I believe it does.
Mhm.
Okay.
I believe it does. As an employee and, you know, you're carrying, you know, where we all work, you know, we all are employees and, certain places and, you know, you don't want to be put in a position where you're carrying that water for your employer. And
Mhm.
that's kind of what we're trying to establish.
Okay, council, if there's no other questions, I take a motion when somebody's ready.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Leroy.
I'll second.
Thank you, Bill. Got a motion by Councilmember Schomer, second by Markert. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on to 7.4, city administrator recruitment. Eric, do you want to kick us off on that one?
Well, I guess I'll have a good idea where you went last week and. Because nobody asked me in a sense, so I just took the opportunity to write something up. If you wanted to just dwell on it, could all be a bad idea. But I thought I'd throw some ideas down on paper that shared another concept for you. We're basically doing an internal hire, an internal process, I'm sorry. In theory, I handed out a schedule, so like tomorrow, the 4th, we would post an announcement. The position, you have a job description, we create a packet like you've seen in the past, and we put that out to the world. We have the league, MCMA, anybody else you all want it to go to, or you can email it to any other party you may desire. Give it 2 weeks, so hopefully deadline would be back on the 18th. And all these dates are conceptual, obviously. And then on the 21st, we would create a step 1 review. And in this case, I wrote the city administrator, the finance director, the mayor, 1 council member, similar to other hiring committees you guys have put together. And we would create a list of finalists. And by creating a list of finalists, that helps us with confidentiality issues. And then and I'd certainly defer to the city attorney who gave me some great thoughts on this. That's a way to throw you under the bus in the pond. But that creates a ability for us to have that list of finalists, offer some confidentiality to those applicants, because some, I mean, that nobody wants their name out in the public realm, like that. So if we can create a list of finalists, we would then create a step 2 review committee, and hopefully that review committee can select up to 3 of those people and hold the first interview, and then that review committee can maybe then advance 2 more to a final council interview, maybe towards the end of February. And towards the end of February, maybe the council can coalesce around one person, have a negotiation as kind of general. But who is that review committee? And just talking with all of you, obviously, I think the role of the mayor is important. The role of a city council member is important. Some cities have a planning commission chair. In your case, you have a vision committee, which, you know, how do you begin to bring back in those, that group? Obviously, there was a lot of them represented at your meeting last week. So you at least bring a little flavor of that. And then finally, a city staff member, the city clerk, finance director, what have you. Just note Peter Spielbarth is here. And he's on your planning commission, and he did sit through the entirety of your day last week. So again, these are just a concept, and or there's maybe 5 other ways to slice this. So
Attorney
that's it.
Michael.
Mr. Mayor, Council, just a couple of notes as you're discussing what to do here related to the confidentiality of data under the Data Practices Act. The term finalist has significance. The finalists under the Data Practices Act are only those people that the whole council is going to interview. And so until you get to the people you're going to have the whole council interview, their names are not public. And so we've got to be careful about that. And I understand while I was at a conference late last week, the resumes of all of that had been collected earlier were sent to me because the consultant wasn't sure whether they could come to you. They can come to you. I will be happy to forward it if you would like, with the understanding that you're in possession of the city's confidential data. You're not free to do anything with that data that you couldn't do, like that Eric couldn't do with it. And then before we start talking about anything, we just want to make sure we use the filter about what's public, what's not public until they're finalist.
So for this next round, those that are not on the subcommittees, they can also see all the applications. They're just not part of that process.
So when you say they, if you mean council members, yes, council members can see that. To the extent you're considering committee members who are not on the council or like a city official, now we'll need to police how much of it they can see and start using numbers instead of names and stuff like that.
And so that would be the point of that review, the initial review committee of a couple of council members and staff to filter that piece out and get to some more down closer to some finalists.
That's fine, but let's say I'm not on the committee. I still want to see all the applications. I want to see all the resumes. I'll be able to do that. Because there was a concern that we could only see the finalists. But, so that was my question. I'm not saying I would do anything.
Yeah.
It's just, I just want to see it.
Council's entitled to see the application.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I like this plan.
Yeah, it seems reasonable. I think it's something we can move through, depending on we get some applications in. Hopefully we advertise this again, we get some new applications, some fresh opportunities to look at. Clearly, we've got some other ones that came through that were rejected in the first process, but at this point, I think it'd be good to have some new applications.
So again, this is concept. I would want to work with Peter to make sure we're following the confidentiality rules, but I think this is operationally it should work. I mean, if somebody hopefully gets some responses, but now you get to decide who is which one of you wants to spend more time with me.
I think it's a great plan. I'd love to be on the committee I could.
Okay. Well, I'd appreciate that. I think, Abe, I'd happy, to serve in that with you and between you and I and Peter and Lucas, I think we can certainly get through this first step and then add a couple more people in for the review committee. Provided that we find some from a couple of our committees that are willing to also participate. And then it'd be nice to have some other outside eyes in some more detailed interviews.
I would approve Abe on that.
Same here.
Yeah, I wanted to do it, but. Can I make a request to the council that we make sure that we post it on LinkedIn and we post it on Indeed, so we get some non-government, just a set of non-government.
So I think the Indeed one's easy because that we can just, pay for that.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, I don't know that the city has a LinkedIn. We'd have to build a profile,
So is that why,
build out,
so Liza's company has a profile,
do.
that's why she was able to?
yes.
I don't know what the process is to do that. But
I think it's
a lot of
probably as
people look
easy
at
as
that.
just signing up for it. The problem is I don't know though. There's two different pieces, right? You can subscribe as a professional entity and pay for, just like on Indeed or anything, you can pay for job ads on LinkedIn. So I guess if we're willing to do that as well, we can do that. Otherwise, if you just post it on your profile, so the city creates a profile and posts it there, probably nobody's gonna see it because nobody's following the city,
Right.
right?
Plus
It's
they
kind of one of those.
search.
Unless we
You
repost or anything of that nature.
Right, exactly, 100%, right? So if we individually, personally could repost those and spread the word that way.
So do you think it's worth doing that? I don't.
I think what would be worthwhile, Bill, is let's let staff investigate that
Alright.
piece of it, and if it's a reasonable amount, I don't know what that is, but I mean, if we want to set a not to exceed number on the advertising, maybe that way it gives staff the flexibility between Indeed and LinkedIn to spend some money.
In LinkedIn, there may be a group for city administrators.
The MCMA
Which
probably
may-
has a LinkedIn, but I don't know how LinkedIn works very well.
Well,
Yeah.
but that may be actually a place.
But don't
to
people have to
research.
be kind of connected to
Yes.
do this? So you have to be subscribed, so is the private.
You-
If the goal is to get outreach out to the private sector and they're not gonna be following the MCMA
Right.
connection, how do you?
They may see it in that.
Yeah, so
If there's a subgroup
Okay.
of city administrators, then that might be the place to put it, which is actually specific to the trade
Yeah,
that you're advertising for. And then there would be people that follow that group
right.
and it would have it would have a job board in it.
Okay.
In
Give it a shot, I just don't. know.
Yeah.
That would,
And the
that
other-
would probably be the right.
I just
The other way,
remember
when you-
being on
when
LinkedIn,
you
I could
do-
look for jobs.
Yeah.
I don't know how it happened. I just
Yeah, well, not only
looked for
that, but
jobs.
they also suggest they also match your quality, right?
Right.
So, they also say, with the sponsored job ads, the looks through those, resumes or the qualifications and then looks through your experience and connects you with those. So there's that opportunity as well if you pay for the job ads. So again, I think giving staff a little bit of not to exceed number.
I wouldn't know what to tell you though, $500. I don't know what it is.
And the other, another
Yeah.
option might be.
I don't know either, right? So that's why, make up a number and if it's a problem, then we have to readjust at some point, right? So,
Another option might be Monster. Which is another.
that still exists. That seems like so 1995.
Sorry.
I'll reach out to whatever I can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, League of Minnesota Cities website will
The
post it
league,
there.
MCMA,
Yeah.
Wisconsin has one. I mean,
Mhm.
there's some other ones. And if you guys have any ideas, I mean, I'll
Yeah.
create a packet that's PDF creatable and. spit it
Okay.
out to wherever you want.
Okay.
Are we thinking of sticking with these dates then?
I think it would be worthwhile because that gets it out tomorrow. Gives it a couple weeks. If in a couple weeks, if we don't get the results we want, we can readjust the first date and go from there. But I think it's worthwhile to, right, at least this gives us a goal,
Yeah.
right? If we just start out without a goal, then it will flounder for a while.
let them know that I'm from the 21st till March 1st, I'm out of town.
What?
Gone,
Gone?
yeah,
Like out west, like
yes,
out west, phones off?
3 snowmobile trips, all in one. Done deal.
Okay, so then we can certainly adjust some of those last
Yeah, whatever.
items and whatever to make sure that everybody's involved, so. But I think let's in concept, keep this schedule just because I don't think we have any reason to change it at this point. Until we have a reason to change it, let's keep this schedule.
Yeah.
So with that, if everybody else is comfortable with this, then I'd appreciate somebody making a motion to approve the what we call this, the draft or proposed outline for our city administrative recruitment process.
I'll make that motion to follow this draft.
Thank you, Abe.
Cool. I'll second it.
Thank you, Leroy. So a motion by Zanto, second by Schomer. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Eric, for putting that together. All right, 7.5, consider setting the date for the Board of Review and Equalization.
Sorry, Mayor Council, catching up again on the packet, the Washington County.
Wow, you second time today, huh?
Scott County is, asking, for you to consider some possible dates for your, border review and, adjustment and equalization. They're asking for it to be between April 1st and May 31st. Your dates last year were noted in the packet on April 18th. My understanding is you did not hold those meetings the same night as your council. So I suppose if you can provide the county some dates, that helps their flexibility. I'm sure they have to go to a few other places too.
Could you repeat the window?
Oh, basically April,
April?
April through May.
yeah.
Okay.
So last year we did it on April 18th. It was a Thursday. So that would correlate to the 17th this year.
That'd be Good Friday this year.
Yeah, so
And then you have a planning commission on the 17th.
no, oh yeah, we do.
And don't we have to fit that in to a 7 days after that council meeting?
Well, that's the other piece of it, because you need so any action, if I remember correctly, any action that's requested has to be resolved within, I think, 20 days.
Yeah, something.
Because then it does need to fit, then our next council meeting would be, so we'd have the 7th and the 21st. That doesn't give a lot of time for turnaround time. But if it's the 20 days, does that fit to 5, 10, 11? So it's 11, 12, 13 days to May 5th council meeting. So I think that's, I believe 20 days sticks in my mind as the
I don't know.
as the date. You guys were trained last.
I didn't know I had.
I'm not throwing anybody at the bus. I'm just trying to get some
Yeah.
somebody else to kind of spring their mind on how many days it is, but I think it's 20 days.
I'm looking here.
I would propose,
I think it's 20, but I thought they said 7 was minimum or something.
well, because he needs, because typically what happens, right, is somebody will those who, best case scenario, if you want to protest your valuation, you reach out to him ahead of time, you get it resolved, he brings that consent agenda here, we approve those ones. And then anybody who comes that day and has a question, we refer them, and then the assessor can go visit with that person and
20.
verify. It is 20.
It says local board must conduct its business and adjourn within 20 days of the date stated
Okay.
in the published notice.
So if we do it, although the 17th is the planning commission night, which is fine if we do it at 3 o'clock like we always have. I was kind of hoping we do it at 6 o'clock, and I kind of wonder if 3 o'clock is a problem for people to get to.
Could be.
Right.
I thought we were gonna talk about getting rid of it and having Scott County do it.
We can't this year. We're stuck this year. I would be a proponent of that,
When-
going forward, but,
When's the deadline? Isn't it like April?
we-
Where we have to?
no, it's not till, I think, December.
Oh, it is.
So, yeah, that would be probably the next,
We should put that on the meeting agenda for December.
How about the 16th, which is a Wednesday?
so likely Helena Township, which had it on the 17th last year, will probably go back to the 16th then this year. So we could certainly keep it on the 17th and do it at 3 o'clock and keep it the same, and maybe it's not a problem. I'm just, my suggestion was to try to get it later in the evening, but I'm fine at 3 o'clock as well. We've always done it at 3 o'clock, and we've had varying, depends on if people's valuations change or not, right? And that's in the end of the day, and it's not the only method for a property owner to contest their valuation, right? And in fact, like most people go up front and do it in front before this meeting.
I'll do whatever you want. I'm flexible.
Should we try 17th at 3?
That's fine.
And just run with that? Maybe we'll still be here when the planning commission starts. Hopefully not. Okay,
2 dates.
no, we're gonna give them one
Oh, you're
date.
gonna give 'em one.
We're gonna draw a hard line.
All right.
We have a tight calendar.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
You know what? Let's give them the 16th and 17th then.
Yeah.
Cause I think that fits their best into our council calendar to get it resolved and back to council and within the 20-day window.
Mr. Mayor, 3 o'clock on the 16th as well.
Sure.
Make it later.
Well, again, I'm looking at the other, they've got to do
The other township.
their townships, 'cause I think every other township except for, so Spring Lake Township has already given it to the county. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Lawrence is on.
So seven townships, so a bunch of the townships are given to the county already. Yeah, but they have more than one assessor.
They do.
They
Okay,
do,
yeah.
yeah,
And those other ones are later at night.
yep. All right, so I would take a motion to approve April 16th or 17th as our 2 dates for
At 3 o'clock? Yep.
at 3 o'clock.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Soderbach, second by Margaret. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. Move to 7.7, discuss the County Road 27 bypass lane improvements. Engineer Nelson, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I figure I'd just start off with just a brief background. So these bypass lanes that we're talking about today on County Road 27 at 210th Street and at Broadview Drive were originally identified in the AUAR study that was prepared back in 2003. That's when the city first started, or the town back then first started experiencing some development pressures. It's about the time that the territory development was originally proposed. And so there was kind of a area-wide study that was completed. And that area-wide study looked at several things. But one of those items was traffic and the necessary road connections to support the development of the area. So these areas were originally identified for improvements. But at the time, the bypass lanes were not put in due to right-of-way constraints. So we have right turn lanes both at 210th Street and at Broadview Drive. But we do not have bypass lanes. So this is something that we've actually collected money from past developers. So we have some money from what we used to call turn lane fees that can be utilized for this. We were negotiating with Scott County for a few years in regards to who would acquire the right of way. We finally came to some agreement with the county on that in 2023. In which Scott County agreed to acquire the right of way. So just checked in with county staff. So far they've reached settlements with 4 of the parcels. They feel like they're close on the 5th parcel, and the 6th parcel might go through the process, and therefore right of way would not be acquired until roughly May of 2025. So we had provided draft construction plans for the county to utilize in order to determine how much right of way is necessary. They, again, they started that roughly middle of summer last year and anticipate all right of way will be acquired by May of this year. So a couple of next steps. One next step is at this time, we don't have any geotechnical data. And geotechnical data is always a good idea, or it's always recommended. Because otherwise it just opens up the city to potentials for large change orders. So we sent out a request for proposals, sent it to 2 firms. One firm responded back that they didn't think their equipment would do well because of the slopes off the county road. So we ended up only receiving 1 proposal. And that was from Braun Intertech in the amount of
$13,789.
correct. And so I'm actually, I just wanted to put this on the agenda just because we haven't talked about it for a long time. If there's any questions about the turn lanes, about why we're doing them, why we're, we can maybe have a discussion on that, and then hoping for 2 actions tonight. The first action to be approve the proposal from Braun Intertech for the geotechnical exploration. And the second item would be to move ahead with what's called the wetland replacement plan. So we intend to apply for, it's called the Local Government Road Wetland Replacement Plan. That's a state program in which the state actually provides the credits at no charge if it meets the criteria. So for a safety improvement project, we believe that this meets all that criteria for a safety improvement project. So we plan to submit it under that program. With that, I will stand for any questions or comments.
Perfect. Thank you, Shane. Council members, any questions?
What's
Bill?
the difference between this one where the county's not picking up any cost? I know they're doing the right of way, but they're not picking up any cost like the other one on Natchez where they gave us like up to $230,000. What is it? Are they doing things differently? Back.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And
It's their road.
I believe the difference is, these 2 turn lane locations were identified as necessary to support development. Whereas the one on Natchez, the reason that we're participating on that was because there was already a roadway connection. And I don't know, the Hills of Credit River that was developed.
90s,
90s?
90s, I think, late 90s.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
late 80s, but
Yeah.
late 90s might be right. And so I think that's the difference is, they're willing to pay when it's an existing condition, but when it's
When it's new development.
when it's required because of development.
So it's pretty common that they make the city pay for things like this.
Well, that was
Typically,
done
it's-
under the county also, back then.
Excuse me?
That was done under the county back then.
Plenty of zoning wires.
Right.
Yeah. But not transportation wise, like internal transportation would still be our responsibility. Okay.
So were there monies collected at that time, back in the 90s? No,
No, when did we start?
started in 2000,
Yeah.
when we developed our
Well, the
park fees, FAUR,
AUAR got done and you knew where they were gonna go and about how much we're gonna need.
park fees,
Mhm.
bypass turn lanes, stuff, all that started back.
You still comfortable with the 400?
Yeah, so the 400, I think, is a pretty close number, until we have the geotechnical data. I really don't know if there's any soil corrections that are necessary. And so I'll be able to provide a detailed estimate after we have the geotechnical data, but.
When do you think they'll start on the geotech if we approve it tonight?
They're about 6 to 8 weeks out.
So then 6 to 8 weeks out, how long does it take them to take the samples and get back to you on the info? I mean, I'm just trying to put the timeline together. When do you think this comes back for, feasibility plan and all that?
Yeah, so I would expect to get the information back in April. And really, all we have left then is if we have to include a quantity for soil corrections.
Okay,
And so the plans will be all ready to go. And as soon as we know that answer, then we can place that on the agenda for authorization, or, approving the plans and specs authorization for ad for bids. And then we would be soliciting bids right about the time that we're acquiring the last property or properties. So I think the timing will work out well.
Okay,
Opening bids probably in May
Yep.
of this year, and then construction in, June, July, August.
sure. So still
Somewhere
a
in
decent timeline then.
Well, one thing, Bill, back when we started the bypass and turn lane fees and stuff. Usually it was driven by the developments. And they could cut that cost in half with using their equipment to do it.
Mhm.
It worked out really good.
But I think where the problem came in then is that the first developer in, if it was one that was gonna continue back, right, is they didn't wanna cover the cost for then it opens up for the next one, right? So think about Gray Fox, right? Gray Fox builds out and then Lake Estates comes back and tags onto the back side of it, right? So now Lake Estates came in, can't remember if that one was after the development fees became illegal, and we stopped collecting them. Yeah, so I don't know if that one contributed or not, but that's how that kind of worked out, as being more the collect the fee, build it later process. Any other questions?
I have two. So it looks like the proposed project as we sit right now is 400 for the two, not just 400 each. Is that a correct? Okay. And then what we're asking for tonight is just to approve the geotechnical for the 13,789. If we choose not to do that, we found no one else that will do it. So at that point, we're canning the project altogether. Is that a fair assessment?
Or opening ourselves up to change orders.
Right, so
doing it
I think
right.
Engineer Nelson had described the process of, if you don't do the geotech and you don't know what you're getting into, the first shovel in the ground could put you in a spot where you have to approve a bunch of change orders, right?
Okay.
Did I describe
I've
that
seen
right?
projects where they literally have found, buried dumps, where people used to dump their trash and, you just never know. So you hope to find, and even with soil borings, we're gonna sample at 4 locations, and they're gonna be a hole about 8 to 10 inches diameter. So that only tells us what the soil conditions are right at that point. And we still can have surprises in between those points, but at least we have some data to use as our basis, so.
When we piggybacked with Scott County on the bypass lane on Wagon Wheel. And then that came out of Bill Feltman's development anyhow. And they did the dirt work as they got in there, and they ended up. They scraped 2-3 feet of clay off the top. They got 10 feet of pure black dirt, so. And do a lot of digging.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a relatively inexpensive piece to test before you get there.
Because it's inexpensive, I'm not worried. Were you concerned about having only one quote?
Well,
'Cause we have been criticized for only we don't have it go back out. I've been criticized for not going back out and getting more quotes. If you only get one, you don't know if you. But
it
it's such a
sounded
small
like
amount.
due to the
Equipment.
equipment and the pitch of their.
And that's correct. There are a lot of geotechnical companies out there. I should say a lot. There's a handful of them. But there's some of them are located up in St. Cloud. And once we get to the construction, it wouldn't be very conducive to have a company out of St. Cloud driving here to do a 15-minute soil test or something like that. And generally you want to have the same company that you use for the original geotechnical exploration do the on-site testing of the soils during construction. And so it just makes sense to do something that's local and in the area. So Braun's local, they have trucks that are all around here. Hauga would have been a fine choice too, but their equipment went to work. So okay, my recommendation would be to approve the quote from Braun.
It doesn't look like it's successful.
Correct.
Okay. With that, if barring other questions, I would go ahead and take a motion to approve. We'll start with the geotech.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jay.
Brown Intertech for 13,789. I'll second it.
Thank you, Leroy. Motion by Siderbach, second by Schomer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Then I would take a motion on the wetland replacement application.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Bill.
I'll second.
Thank you, Abe. Motion by Markert, second by Zonto to approve the application to the wetland replacement. What do you call it again? Sorry.
Wetland replacement plan.
Wetland replacement plan. Perfect. Say that a couple times. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Shane. Move to 7.8, consider finance departmental policy, account adjustments and write-offs.
Uh-oh.
Finance Director Chase, welcome.
Thank you, Mr.
Second
Mayor.
meeting and you're already participating. I like it.
There you go. So in front of you is a policy related to account adjustments and write-offs. Coming from an audit background, this is a common only ask these that they have these because it's area where, if you don't have guidance staff could make some errors, whether, in as an actual error, or it could pass some things through that you might not want happening. Currently there isn't a written council approved policy for this. And it's going to relate to things where sometimes we'll be facing possible adjustments, whether it's for error or more commonly, we just had some instances come in, somebody sold a property, the new property owner and the old property owner didn't let the city know. We're still pulling automatic ACHs from an old account. Now we need to go through, adjust the old one, rebuild the new people. So that's going to be a common one. And also if there's some uncollectibles, looking into write-offs, that would be addressed in this policy as well. So that's the background. And basically it's going to provide staff with, we set a dollar amount in this draft for $500 where I could approve those adjustments or write-offs. Anything above that would have to come to council. There's a policy in there or process written in there, then, obviously there'd have to be written documentation from the applicant, and like we gave them 90 days from the original bill.
Thank you, Lucas. Council questions, comments?
No, makes sense.
Okay, if you guys are comfortable with that, I would take a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion approved.
Thank you, Abe. Thank you, Jay. Motion by Zonto, second by Siderbach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. 7.9, Planning Commission appointment process. I just asked to put this on the agenda as the application process closed on Friday. I think we have 4 applications. I think in the past, what we've done is the liaisons from the planning from the council to the planning commission, and then 2 members of the planning commission would review those and make a recommendation to the council. Is that a process that we'd like to continue?
Sure.
So what would that be? It's 5 people or is that 4 people?
Well, I guess that's we could do it as 5. We could say the 3 planning commission members that are not up for renewal this year and the 2 council liaisons could review that application list and see if there's a, interview if needed and make recommendations. Or we could just say the chair and one other planning commission member. I'm open that piece. I think the last time we did it with 2 planning commission members. Cause I think it was the 4 of us, right, Bill?
Well, I know it was you and me,
Yeah, but
but
I
I
thought,
was both a planning commission member, wasn't I, and a city council member, or wasn't I?
oh, maybe you weren't at that time,
I
right?
thought
Maybe
it was
because
just
you were
and
on,
me. Was it just you and me? Or was there?
no, we had 4, I thought.
You did a couple of members.
Yeah, I think we had a couple of members of planning commission too. Yeah,
And Matt.
that's right. Yeah, we had
So
a
who
staff member.
was there? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That would make 5.
What are you thinking?
Just trying to think about, if there's only 2 council members, and 3 non, what we're doing is we're recommending to the city council something that may oppose the 2 city council members. If it's a 3-2. So I would be more in line to do 4 than 5.
Okay, and actually, now that I think about it too, it's actually better with just 2 planning commission members, because otherwise we'd have to notice it as a public meeting then.
Mm.
So we're better off with just a
Two,
two.
two.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Is everybody fine with that process then?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay,
As restated, yes.
okay. So I would take that motion.
Do we have to, who are the planning commission members then, or is that something they'll decide?
I think, I mean,
would
I
be
think
the
we'll have to
chair.
ask them. We don't have them here to ask if they want to be a part of that process. I mean, Peter's here.
Right.
Yeah, we could volunteer him.
Right.
I know, that's why I
Right.
said that, Peter. I knew you'd be willing. And then maybe Peter and Amy.
All right,
We'll use the chair. I'm sure Amy would be more than happy to participate. And then if, I guess we'll just say. The motion could be, the process could be is. We have a commitment from Peter, so we know he's in, and we can say, we'll ask Amy if she declines, then Dave would be the next
Okay.
one. And
all right, that sounds good.
And who are the liaisons right now? That's.
Bill and
Chris?
myself.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so I'd take a motion. Somebody's ready?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Leroy.
Second.
Thank you, Bill. Motion by Schomer, second by Margaret. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. All right, we'll move into staff and council member reports. Attorney Michael, anything?
Your Honor.
Thank you.
I-
Mr. Johnson.
One clarification, if I could ask, on the process potentially for the city administrator. I had noted the mayor and the council member on the review committee, working with the planning commission chair, vision chair, and the staff member. I also thought maybe if it was planning commission member Peter Thielbarth, I don't know if the council wanted to clarify one of those two, if it was the chair or if Peter Thielbarth was not to say preferred. Who do we want to burden with this potential meeting?
From the planning commission.
On the planning commission. And again, only reference member Thielbarth because he was present.
Part of the process the other day. Yeah. I'm fine with that.
As long as he's willing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. You want to ask Cheryl if she wants to participate too then?
You already said yeah.
See, that's the way things work.
Right?
Usually if
You'd
you're
be-
not here, you're volunteering.
I know.
No, otherwise that mayor and council, thank you.
Okay. Council members on to anything? Schomer?
No complaints on the dust, so.
Well, got a little bit of precipitation, so I'm probably not as dusty today as it has
Good.
been, so hopefully it keeps going. Okay, the only thing I've got, we have this potential capital improvement project coming up in 28-29 where we've talked about a country court. We've often talked about, reaching out for bonding requests from the state in that process. And I've socialized that a little bit with our legislators and our legislator, Kosnick, is on the Finance and Policy Committee. He's the chair. He reached out to me the other day asking if we have an amount, not asking if we're asking yet, but if we have an amount so we can start planning for the future in the bonding process to get it a part of the queue. If everybody's okay, I would be happy to talk with Engineer Nelson and try to get a round number just to at least get it in the queue of being planned for.
Sure.
Don't see a reason why not.
It doesn't hurt. Can you share the number though with everybody when you
Yeah.
hear it?
Yeah.
Do you have a number?
Oh, we're just
I
looking for a
won't share the
ballpark. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, at this time, I don't have a number. We do have some capital improvement plan estimates for the road projects for Country Court,
yes.
which includes sewer, water, and streets. I think I'd wanna just take a fresh look at those, just, I actually prepared some like feasibility level estimates. So, I mean, I think those projects were roughly $3.5 million each. So that's $7.5 million. And then in addition, we have potentially a lift station and the crossing under County Road 44. But part of that, I think, is we'll have to reopen up our discussions with the Met Council. We've been suggesting that they pay as much of the cost as possible to get the pipe to us. And the way, or kind of where they left it at, is that they would potentially, pay for the cost of the metering station, but not the pipes going underneath County Road 44, which
Mhm.
are somewhat expensive because we have to, you jack the casing pipe and then slide with the sewer pipe and the water pipe through those, so. It'll take a little bit of coordination, but
Mhm. Again, we're just looking for it to get a ballpark so that we can get that placeholder in line there for when request starts coming forward, so.
I truly think that if the Met Council wants to stab sewer, that they should at least bring it into the city.
Absolutely.
And County Road 42 is the city.
44.
44, excuse me.
right,
Yeah,
and I've advocated that point.
Yep.
Counselor Sauerbach, so, we'll see.
Yep, but this is just small piece of the step, right?
Yep.
Let's get it in awareness at the legislators so that they can start thinking that through and if we decide to come forward with an ask
Well,
later.
the question, I mean, if there is a question of whether that's gonna happen or not, maybe, that should be if nothing else, a grant from the state.
Mhm.
Also, that
Yeah.
additional
I-
amount, maybe we should ask for that part too, or at least say contingent to the Met Council bringing it in. If they don't, then we need an
Yeah.
additional amount and then put that in as well.
And a lot of these bonding projects work like that, Jay, where
Right.
there's steps to them, right? And a
Right.
lot of times people ask for a bonding request for the engineering and design up front, and then they come back the next year for the construction costs, right? So again, this is just a small step of the process and getting it socialized with the legislature so that when we do make an official request, that we actually have, everybody's familiar with the project and are ready to keep it moving forward.
When are we gonna start socializing this with the residents up there?
We've had
We've had several.
several neighborhood meetings with them. Talking with staff earlier, I suggested we're probably getting close to the time for the next step,
Mhm.
So
Was it 3 years ago we had one?
I think that was the first one was 3 years ago. I thought we had one 2 years ago too.
Yeah, there was an
Yeah,
open
we've had
house
a
here
couple.
3 years ago. I remember that, 'cause I
Yeah.
came here and there was a lot of upset people. Based on the cost, there was a whole bunch of numbers being thrown around that night, if I recall right, and
Well, I don't think we've ever given any numbers, Bill.
No, we
no,
don't.
they
Well,
were
the
saying,
residents
the
threw
residents
some
were coming
numbers
up
out.
with numbers. Right.
So.
I still think that the city should look at alternatives before we go and do all this stuff. I wish that I would like to have the city council, welcome in Scott County, welcome in the, University of Minnesota has a organization that talks about septic systems where you can replace what you have today. There's other types, and I'd like to have that discussion before we get our money. I know we're not gonna get our money tomorrow, but we have
No,
time
we're
to do
not,
that.
we're not asking for the money today. We're
And-
just
and-
starting to socialize the process.
And then it's a lot easier to tell our residents, there is no other option. And I know I'm giving false hope out there, maybe there's no other option, but I sure would like to be able to do something before we pull the trigger on this stuff.
Bill, I
know
don't
we-
disagree
know
that
we
there's
disagree.
an opportunity for some education around the technical and science of it. And as a matter of fact, I had a conversation with Shane and Eric this morning about that and building it out. And I actually have a call with Scott County on Wednesday to start asking for some of that information.
Okay, could I be on that call? Or,
It's just a discovery call to get the process to see what we need to get started, Bill.
okay,
We'll bring it back to the council for further refinement before we do anything different.
okay.
It
I think
just-
I think we're gonna get a lot more buy-in if we just say, hey, there's no other option here. We
Mhm.
have to do this, and we've never talked about alternatives. And a lot of residents may not wanna have a big bill. Maybe they wanna suffer with a, 50% crappy septic system, I don't know. But I just wanna make sure that we're looking at all the other alternatives, cause once,
All right,
that's all I got to say.
Jay, any updates?
No.
Bill?
I might go to the Scott County thing tomorrow morning, cause they're gonna be talking about ditch 4. Did you see that? It's on
Oh, the council
agenda.
meeting?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Did
So I
Tom
might go.
disappear on us already?
Yeah, ditch 4, and there's another ditch, I think, on the agenda.
Okay.
They're gonna talk about the results of the survey,
Mm,
and I have a question about it, because it wasn't 50%. I think there was a petition, if it's more than 50%, they can't remember what. it is.
Yeah, so I think I think
was-
you're right. There was a point of if X number of residents that are property owners, I should say, that are in the ditch for, what do they call that, Shane? The watershed or the area.
Benefiting.
The benefiting
properties.
properties that they can abandon.
Yeah.
That, and then it becomes a public waterway. And I know,
There wasn't 50%, but there was 100 that didn't vote.
Hmm.
So do those count as voting no? Or abandoned? That's my question. So
I don't know.
I might go tomorrow,
okay,
but that's all I have.
yeah. I think that'd be,
should rename it the Gulf of Credit River.
Credit River Straits.
Little Panama.
oh, man. I could foresee that, by the way, being a problem if that gets abandoned, because then who
Oh, yeah.
maintains all that along there and all the developments that now drain into that, it's gonna be a.
Leroy, you're gonna have to get your waiters on there.
Oh, Bill, you're gonna have. You're part of my district.
Then the Beavers move in.
Right? Yeah, I know. All right, sounds good. Lucas, anything else?
Nothing for me.
Shane?
Nothing.
Amy?
Like a staff member.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. All right, with that, Abe,
We're ready for adjournment. I'd like to make that motion.
motion by Zanto,
I'll second it.
second by Schomer. Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion approved. Thank you very much, everybody.
Oh, we've been doing this now for the last 6 meetings. You have already? Oh, man.
I'm waiting right now.
I needed an update too.